felt sick and ashamed to thinking what I've done has hurt my dad as much as his daddy dying.
You're through to Option 1. Option 1 podcast.
When my boxing career finished, I came to the UK to work and got my head together through Mr. Eastwood, and I realised then that there's more to life than boxing and that. And I came to the UK to work. I came working for a man called Paddy Finn. He was in the pub trade, ex-Irish heavyweight champion. And I came over, I managed his pub, got the licensee for the pub. I did a BII certificate, British Institute of Innkeeping. I'd done 2 MVQ certificates. Like I said, I'd left school with 2 swimming certificates. So suddenly now I'm getting a bit of an education.
Yeah.
And I'd done 2 years managing Paddy Finn's pub, and then the opportunity came up to take over a pub in Erdington called the Lindhurst. It was on a very rough housing estate, but there was good people on the housing estate. And I took the pub with my business partner from doing £1,000 a week to doing £16,000 a week. We were making a good living. We had the big function room, we had boxing tournaments on. Bunny Johnson, the first black British heavyweight champion, he came to the pub, and Richie Woodall, former world champion, and Rob Norton, former world champion, Ernie Shavers, the hardest puncher ever of all time, came to my pub to visit people in the pub. Denzel, out of Only Fools and Horses, Paul Barber, my friend, came to visit me in the pub. And a lot of celebrity friends visit the pub. And we built the trade up. Celebrity friends that I know through the boxing. Anyway, the racketeers wanted protection money. I thought this only happened in movies. It happens in real life.
Is that an actual thing that goes on?
Yeah.
Is it just in cities, or is it across?
It happens all over the place. And
So when you say racketeers, so these are a gang of people who...
Scum. Gangsters, right?
What are they asking you to do?
£500 a week protection money.
Protection money from...
Them.
Right, okay.
Like I said earlier on, I bowed to royalty out of respect. I bowed to no man out of fear. So on the 19th of July 1998, they put a demand in.
Yeah.
The 26th of July, they attacked the pub. I got shot twice. And it was a bad day. Had headlines in the newspapers that said the attack on the Lindhurst pub made the Braveheart film look like a Walt Disney movie. It was a bloodbath. Lucky nobody died, but there was a lot of people wounded. I was one of them. Anyway, I was charged and had to fight a legal battle.
Charged with what?
Attempted murder.
But
All I did
they
was defend
attacked you.
myself. Yeah, but the law is strange the way it worked.
Right.
And then my ex Lisa had issues with her over my house in Ireland, and I speak bad of her. And then the brewery were trying to evict me, saying I wasn't a fit and proper person to run that pub. So I was fighting on 3 fronts, and I ran out of money.
How were you paying for all of that at the time?
I sold everything. I had my savings, and I sold what I had. I sold my watch. My mum and dad got me for my 18th birthday. My ring, they got me for my 21st. I sold everything I had.
Well, that was hard, though.
Very, very
sell
hard.
that.
Very hard. That's what I say. People think that Joe Egan's life has been a bed of roses. It's been a lot of thorns on the way as well, you know. There's been roses many, many times, but there's been a lot of thorns and a lot of weeds. But it's life, you know. And like I said, I'm not on any pity trip. I've had a good life, and I'm still here. And I'm enjoying every day. Like I said earlier on, every day is a gift. It's a present, and I'm enjoying it. But when I ran out of money and I got the opportunity, I'd never been in trouble in my life, Theo. Do you understand? I've always been a decent, good person, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Pride myself on who I am and carry my family name and try and do my family proud and my dad proud. That's all I wanted to do in life was
That's
do my
all
mum and dad
anyone
proud.
wants, just to make their parents
that's
proud.
it. So when I got into trouble, Theo, a guy had came into the pub. I was introduced to him, and he asked could he park stolen cars on the car park of the pub. I was at such a low ebb in my life. I was at such a low ebb in my life. I turned to crime, ashamed of myself. I really am ashamed of myself.
Did you go to prison?
Yeah, I went to prison. And one time that I only ever see my dad cry was when his daddy died. And I didn't understand. Me and my 2 brothers, we were very young at the time, and in every boy's eyes, his dad's the toughest man on the planet. In my eyes, my dad was the toughest man on the planet. And I'd watched him coming in the front door, and my mum greeting him in the hallway, telling him the news. I didn't know what was going on. I just saw him hold his head in his hands like that and break down crying. And my arms around one of my brothers, and I got such a fright because my dad was crying in front of me. I'd never seen this before. you know, and I got such a fright. Anyway, it turned out that we found out that his daddy had died, God rest him, my granddad. Anyway, wind the clock on years later, when I was found guilty of my crime, and I looked up to the gallery, and I saw him holding his head in his hands, and it was like deja vu. It was the same feeling of his daddy dying, me getting sent to prison, and I felt, I'm not going to cry now, I felt sick and ashamed to thinking what I've done has hurt my dad as much, me getting sent to prison, as his daddy dying. And I felt sick, and I thought, it just broke me, you know. When I went down the stairs to the cells, and I just felt ashamed of my life. Anyway, when I came out of prison,
How long did you?
I originally got
serve?
2.5 years, and then when I was in prison, the Crown Prosecution, the West Midlands Police, who had exposed for corruption, appealed and tried to get me 7 years, and then they
Right.
got it increased to 4 because I'd upset them. Do you understand? I'd upset them because on the day of that attack, they let me down. You understand? They knew what was happening that day. There was men coming to my pub with guns. They knew the West Midlands Police were well aware.
How
And
long
it
did
still
it-
took them 55 minutes to get to me. Police station 600 yards away.
For,
You know, well, 55 minutes. You know,
that's crazy.
It is
That's
bad. It's
absolutely
bad.
Crazy.
Anyway, when I came out of prison, Theo, made a comeback. I asked Mike Tyson if I could. I wasn't good enough to be a sparring partner anymore. I've got to fight in one of his undercards. And he said, yeah, Shelley Finkel contacted me. And he said, Joe, we get you on one of the undercards. But I said, I'll have a warm-up fight in Ireland to see how I go, if there's anything left. I was 37, going on 38 years of age. And I boxed. I fought a guy called Mark Williams. I walked out of that dressing room. And as I said, I'd walked out of this dressing room as an amateur, so I knew my way to the boxing ring from that dressing room. I walked into the venue, the big hall, and I walked past the boxing ring, and I was walking out of that building. So as I'm sitting here, I was walking out, and as I'm walking to the exit, 2 geezers that were sitting went, tapped me, and they went, Joe. And I went, what? They said, you've missed the boxing ring. This was on Irish television. So I have to turn back and walk back to the ring. See, if they hadn't tapped me, I probably would have walked out of that building. My mum only lived 10 minutes from the hotel, and I'd been at my mum's front door, knocking on the door. I didn't want to be there, Theo.
No.
Anyway, when I got into the ring, the first 2 rounds, I wasn't in it. I wasn't there. And I'd sparred well. I'd sparred with Steve Dawson. I'd sparred well. I'd trained hard. I'd got myself in good shape in prison.
Did you win this fight?
Yeah,
The comeback fight?
Yeah.
You stopped him, didn't you, in the 8th
yeah,
round?
it was a hard win, Theo, because the first 2 rounds he was hitting me from every angle. I wasn't there because of
The nerves.
the nerves, emotions, ring rust, everything else. You know, what am I doing? And I was 37, going on 38, 12 years out of the ring, and I've come back to my corner after the 2nd round, and my corner man, Tony Man, who was my trainer as an amateur, hit me a slap like I wasn't being hit enough. Wake up! You're getting hammered. So
Did you have blood anywhere? Were you bleeding at all?
I
or
can't
not really?
remember, Theo, to tell you the truth. I know I was getting hurt. So I've gone out for round 3, and I got into the fight in round 3. And in round 4, I was doing a little bit better in round 4. And towards the end of round 4, I pushed Mark into the corner to try and... He was moving along the ropes, and he was faster than me, and I pushed him into the corner. But as I pushed him into the corner, his shoulder dislocated, because I got a lot of strength, and I pushed him into it, and his shoulder dislocated, and his arm fell by his side. And I thought, he's wounded here, he's hurt, because I saw him trying to raise his arm.
And you couldn't.
We went back to his corner. He still came out for round 5 with one arm. He couldn't even raise his other arm, and he was trying to fight. The fight was stopped. It wasn't the best of the ways to win.
Win's a
But
win.
a win's a
Yeah.
win. Anyway, I said to Brendan Ingle, who was in attendance, he trained Nassim Hamid, trained some great champions, Johnny Nelson, he trained loads of great champions. And how did I look? Because Brendan's from the same town as me. His brother John was our lifeguard in our swimming baths in Ringsend. And he said, you looked okay, a bit slow in your first 2 rounds, but you looked all right. Bit left, Joe. Mo trainer, a few other people that were there. So then I contacted Mike and Shelley, and I said, look, I boxed in Ireland. The Irish would tell me the truth. If there was nothing left, they'd say, look, you're rubbish, give it up. Right? Nothing left. But they said, I've got a little bit left.
Yeah.
So then I went training with Steve, as I'd done many, many times before. I ducked into a punch, and he ripped my eye wide open. Had headgear on, big gloves, and he ripped my eye wide open. And I felt the blood running down my face, and I knew then it was over. I was 38 years of age at that stage. And I
So
knew
you
it was
never
over.
got to box on the undercard?
Never got the box on the undercard. I went to see Mike fight when he fought Julius Francis, and I saw him when he fought Savary, so I would have been on one of them. But the thing is, it didn't happen. But now, 20 years on, from 38, now 58, I've got a bit of a goal now on the John Fury thing.
It's give you a bit of a passion again. It ignited something inside you.
Yeah,